Hey, it's Ethan here. So in this video, we're going to be going through how you can use Sell by Chat to book sales calls on the DMs. Now, previously, I made a video on how to start conversations with idle clients on LinkedIn. So if you haven't seen that, make sure to watch that first. So I'm basically going to be carrying on from there. So bearing in mind, at this point, we would have sent the first message, right? So we would have, say found the sort of intent-based lead, and we would have obviously then connected with them and then actually sent them that first message. Now, the next thing is that when they do respond, well, how do you deal with that, right? Where do you go from when they've sent the message, right? Now, there's obviously going to be a few things that can happen, right? You can either have people that will just say ghost the message or just not see it, right? Which obviously this is going to happen, right? Even with the warmest of leads, if your message gets completely ghosted, what I usually look to do is after say maybe two, potentially 3 days of messaging, I'll usually then follow them up. This will usually be with a voice note just to make it a bit more personalized, just as a sort of like bumping up the message sort of thing, because we don't want to completely give it like give up. Because I want you to think that even if you can see that they've viewed that message, you want to just assume that they were too busy and they didn't get around to it, right? You want to like the moment I want you to stop messaging them is when it's very clear or they've at least said that, hey, look, I'm just genuinely not interested, right? You don't want to give up on these prospects too early, especially if they're say warmer prospects. So one of the things is that they can ghost you, right? The other thing is that obviously bearing in mind the question you would have asked, in the previous video would have been pretty specific in terms of say the topic you're talking about in relation to how you help them. So, for example, for me, I might ask how people's like say like LinkedIn lead gen is, right? I might say, like, hey, name, and then something personalized, and then, how's your LinkedIn lead gen going? You're doing well, right? It's very specific question, right? This isn't like, hey, how's life or how's the business, where they can give a very broad answer of, oh, yeah, it's cool or whatever, which, yeah, sure, you get more responses, but it's just so broad, it's so difficult to then get to the nitty gritty stuff right here, which is why I might lead with a question specific as this. Because really, for example, when I ask this question, what I find is that I will have, a few responses, right? I'll either have people that'll be pretty open about it, right? And I mean, if they're open about their problem, aka, they're probably like, oh, hey, it hasn't been that good lately, or maybe it's not consistent as I want it to be, or something. The moment they open up, right? That obviously gives me a pretty big indicator that A, they have somewhat trust in me and actually what I do, and B, they're potentially considering or at least have the thought of maybe actually working with me to help that problem. But the thing is that when you're asking these questions to identify these problems that they have, the moment they open up about one of these problems, you want to pretty much just suggest a call right from there, right? Because that said, like the whole idea of sell by chat is you're just trying to ask questions, acknowledge what they've said, resonate with that, and ask further questions that help you identify a problem. We're not here to have a massive sort of like chat that goes just forever and ever between like you and the prospect, right? We're not looking for this. What we're looking for is just asking questions that are relevant, and then when they do actually have a problem, they suggest a call. Now, I used to think, oh, well, when is the right time to suggest a call? Should I gather information beforehand? But really, in reality, a lot of these questions you're going to ask are going to be similar questions that you would ask, say, on, say, sales calls and such, right? And you can have a back and forth chat that goes really, really long. You can do that. But it makes sense for both of you to hop on a call and to have those questions further. Now, I would never, and I mean, I would never propose a call to someone that hasn't opened up about, say, a problem that they have, right? And that a problem that I can solve, obviously, right? Because it doesn't make sense, right? Just like how you can't really help someone that doesn't really want to be helped, you can't really, make someone take action on something which they don't see as a problem. So that's really that. So that's obviously one of the responses, right? Which is ideal, right? If they're open about it from the get go, that's cool. Another thing is that you might find that some people will be on the complete flip side and they'll be like, no, it's all good, right? No, things are well, or no, I'm not interested, or whatever, right? If they say they're not interested, then obviously you can obviously leave it at that. If they say things are well, or things are good in relation to what you asked. So, for example, for me, if they said their LinkedIn lead gen's good, there's a few things I can do, right? I can either say, yeah, that's all cool, or if I want to press even further, right? So let's say they say sort of like, I don't know, it's good, which my handwriting is pretty bad still. Then what I can do is that I could just say, okay, just to clarify, that like, does that mean you are? And then I'd paint, say, an ideal state of what I would see as good, right? So maybe that might be, just to clarify, does that mean you're booking this many calls like a week or whatever, right? And if they say yes, or if they're like, something around the lines of, yes, it's pretty much like that, then usually I can just pretty much say, hey, keep at it. That's all cool. I'll move on to the next person. Because the thing is, if they don't have a problem that I can solve, there's no point pursuing further. There's genuinely no point. However, if I were to then say that and they were like, well, actually, you know, I'm not booking that many calls. And then I can ask, oh, okay, then say, what's the next step to make it better, or what is it that actually you feel like needs to be improved, right? Because some people will be in a pretty good place, but they want to be in a better place, and so that can still be a bit of a problem for them, right? So the reason why we ask these questions to go further down. Now, what you can also have, is you can also have, people, which bearing in mind you have people that ghost you, people that are open to you, and then people that will just say no or it's good. You can have people that will be pretty vague about questions, right? So, for example, when I ask how someone's LinkedIn lead gen's going, a common one that I will get is, oh yeah, like LinkedIn's been good to like get connections, or like to build meaningful connections or networking. And what this usually tells me is that this is not true, and this is actually something else. And what this is that, hey, LinkedIn's getting me connection, but it's not getting me any leads, right? And sometimes you need to be able to identify what they're saying in that language and be able to sometimes call them out on it. Now, this is obviously going to depend on who you're dealing with, your sort of niche, and be able to identify this. And honestly speaking, it will take practice to figure out, why people are saying certain things, because not everyone's going to be super open with you, but it's just trying to ask those further questions. And I think for me, I found that over time, when I do ask these questions a bit further, so even when they say it's good, I'm like, hey, just to clarify, you're in this situation, or you have this and this result, right? This is good, right? um that can be a bit uncomfortable sometimes, but that said, by clarifying that, right? If they say that, hey, yeah, I am in that situation, it's all good. I'm like, cool, that's fine. Just wanted to check. But if they say, actually, well, no, I'm not in that situation, then obviously that's the other thing. And for this as well, you just need to pay attention to their language in the sense of, well, what are they saying? How are they phrasing these things, and be able to do that. So this is pretty much the process, right? So once we send that first message, we're then just asking questions to identify a problem. Now, the moment they like they open up about a problem, they share, actually, you know what, Ethan, my LinkedIn lead generation at the moment is not that good, or it's not as consistent as I want it to be, or I'm not booking that many sales calls at the moment. That's when I want to suggest a call, because that is really what makes most sense to me, and what makes most sense to them. Because if they're open enough, or if they're in a position where they're gonna open up to me a little bit about their problem, why wouldn't they want to hop on a call with me to chat a bit more? And the way I position these calls, by the way, isn't like, hey, let's hop on a call to see if I can help you, right? That still works. But I basically pretty much position the call as, hey, if it makes sense to you, we can hop on a call. Just so I can better understand your situation, maybe share a few things that might be able to help, and then maybe we can talk about if or how I can help you. Right? I'm not positioning that call as, hey, I'm going to help you. I'm positioning the call as, hey, I want to understand your situation better. I want to, like I should be able to share a few things that might be able to help, in which on the call I'll aim to share things that they can at least take away from the call, whether they go to work with me or not. And then obviously I say that, hey, we can then talk about if or how I could help you as well. But this is the general process that I like to use, and there's nothing specific with it, right? So yeah, sure. When you are sending that first message, you can be a bit more templated and say like a bit more fill in the gaps type of thing. You can do that. However, with sell by chat, it's very difficult for me to say, do like a fill in the gaps thing here because it's all very situational. What really matters is this, is that you are able to really just pick up on, okay, how are they sort of responding to these things? And what you might find is that if you're finding that a lot of the time when you're messaging people, what's happening is that, say, lots of them are saying, no, they're good, or they're not interested, or whatever, you might need to also consider a few other things. And this being, well, first of all, does your profile speak does your profile speak to the right people, right? Because if your profile is pretty vague, then, or at least just doesn't seem like it's relevant to that individual, they might not feel like you can help them. And that's obviously going to be a pretty big problem. So you might want to consider, is your profile sort of, working, and is that there? The other thing as well is in terms of, say, your content, right? Are you posting content that is speaking to their problem? Because chances are, right, when these people are in this conversation with you, they will at some point look at your profile and look at a bit more about what you're doing, right? And so if your profile speaks to them and to their sort of like goals, if your content is relevant to their situation, and if on your profile as well, an additional thing, if you can show social proof and maybe even case studies that of you getting results either for yourself or your clients, that's going to help massively because then they'll actually believe you can get them results. Because a lot of the time, people might not open up to you, not because they don't have the problem or that because they don't think necessarily you don't help people like them, but they don't believe you can help them. So if on your profile, so for me in my featured section, I've got lots of posts featured there that talk about and show me, say, booking sales calls for myself consistently and me actually helping other clients and getting feedback from other clients and such. So if you can also include this as well, this will make your whole sort of sell by chat a lot easier to actually book those calls as well. But yeah, this is pretty much the process. So, like, bearing in mind, right? I think if you really want to make sure that you can book more consistent sales calls, then you want to follow this sort of framework. Now, that said, like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that your profile is optimized, it's showing who you help, what you do, how you do it, and that social proof that you can, and obviously you're posting content because that is going to make like outreach and sell by chat easier. That said, really with this whole approach, all you're looking to do is when you have, say, connected with an ideal client, then you want to send them that first message, which I covered that in a previous video. And then you just want to be asking questions, resonating with what they're saying, and being able to identify problems. The moment they do, don't worry about having to, say, gather more information. You don't need to ask any more questions from here. You just want to go straight to booking this call, which, as you can see, I've drawn very nicely there. You just want to go straight to actually suggesting that call, suggesting a time, and then just getting them booked in, because you don't need to be wasting or spending loads of time per prospect. You just want to spend your like the time that you need on each prospect and get them onto calls, because if you can get them onto calls, it's going to be a lot easier for you to convert them as well. But overall, hopefully you found this video useful. If you have, let me know what you'd like to see next. And